Okay, hey, Andy and Denise here on the banks of the Yukon River at Calico Bluff again, and this little segment we're doing is called Bush Tips and Tricks, and the subsection of it is knowing knots. And as I've said before, when the invention of Velcro happened, it changed the world in many good ways, but in one bad way, people forgot how to tie knots or just don't use knots very often. And that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. So what I'm hoping to do in this segment is to teach people about 3 really basic knots. They're simple to tie. They're really good knots because they never jam up. You can always untie them. They have, basically, if you have these 3 knots, you can do just about anything you need to do out in the bush and not ruin your rope with a knife to undo it. So we want you to stay tuned. If you like this, keep following. We're going to continue with part 3 on another knot, and then we'll just continue on with different skills that are really useful when you live out in the bush, but they're also skills that are useful if you live in a city or a suburban environment. Everybody should know how to tie a few basic knots. It's just a good skill to have. We're going to start out with the way we tie our boats up to stakes. That's the first easiest knot to learn. Okay, so a lot of people, when they tie knots around things, they make one thing that they do that makes no sense at all. It looks good, but it doesn't make any sense at all. So this side right here is what I'm going to call the main line, and this is the bitter end. So the end of a rope is always called the bitter end, the loose end. So that's what I'll be referring to. But a really simple, super quick way to tie your boat up to something and make it really secure is you take it and you flip the bitter end underneath of it. And then when you do that, all you have to do is drop it over whatever you're doing and pull it tight. Now, a lot of people go around the post a couple of times, but that doesn't do any good because all that does is it creates a little bit of friction, but it doesn't do anything to really bind the knot. So the best thing to do, again, you have the main part of the line, the bitter end goes underneath, you drop it over, you pull it tight, but then you go over your main line. That's called putting a bite in it and around your object. So that's called a bite right there. And so all the tension is right there on that. I could have 1,000 pounds pull on that, and I could hold it with just my 2 fingers here like this, because all the tension is right there in that knot. If you want to make it even easier to untie, then you go back underneath of your knot and over your stake again. And that puts 2 bites in it, one on one side of the rope and one on the other side of the rope. And then that's going to hold really well. If you want to secure it a little bit, you just put a half hitch in it. So you've got a loop, you put the half hitch through it, you pull it tight, and that rope will not come undone. And the beautiful thing about this knot is that this knot can be under a lot of tension, and all you have to do is pull that half hitch out, flip that end over, flip this end over, and then you can untie it, even though it's got a lot of tension on it. The other thing that's good about it is if this was up in the air and you were hanging something, when you have a bite like that in it, all you have to do is release a little bit of tension here, and you can control how slowly that load gets let off. So this is called a Munton Muller knot. It's a rock climbing knot, but it's a super secure one. Okay, so Denise and I are here. I'm on the edge of the bank where it's going to cave in on me. This is basically another way to tie that, where you're going to be able to lift a load up or lower a load down. So to remind you again, you go over whatever it is that you're doing. You go around your rope. You don't go back over this. And then after you go around your rope and put that bite into it, you come back over the top. And now the entire load is held right here very, very easily. So we're going to demonstrate that. I'm going to have Denise tie that part of it. Go ahead, Denise, tie the knot. Go around the front of it. So you go around your post, you go around your rope and then back over the post. And then once you have that, you can hold it really easily. And then she can lower it down real easily just by letting loose on that.
don't feel that weight at all.
Right, so all the weight, all the tension is right here on this binding point, this cinch point right here. So if you want to do it really secure, then what you do is you come back over the front. This one went around the front of the rope right here. Now you're going to come around the back of it and then go back over top. Now you have a bite both on the front and the back of it. And all you'd have to do, you don't even hardly have to put a half hitch in this. I'll just put a really loose one in it. You can see that's holding that 30-pound weight right like that. No problem. That's a totally loose knot right there. So that just shows you how much, like 99% of the bite and the hold is right there on those two. And then if you want to undo that quickly, a lot of times what I do when I have these knots like this is I just put comes around, I just put a half hitch in that. So you go around the rope and pull up on it, and then you leave your tag end or your bitter end loose. And then when you want to untie the rope, your knot, your boat, whatever it is you're doing, your load, all you have to do is pull on that. That undid that part of the knot. Then you take your first bite out, and then if you want to lower it down or whatever, you just release pressure on it. So that's basically a Munton Muller holding a load. It's a really good knot because it's never going to bind if you tie it like I showed you, and you'll always have a lot of control. And think of it, if you had a boat and it somehow got grounded or something happened and the line was really tight on it, you'd be able to undo your rope really easily. A lot of people do a clove hitch on a boat, which is a horrible knot to use because once that knot tightens up, you cannot undo it when it's under tension. So this is a great knot, whether it's under tension or not under tension, to hold things very securely. So I'm going to do it one more time, and that'll end the video. So you have your main line, your bitter end, put your bitter end underneath of it to put a loop on it, drop it over the stake, pull it tight, don't go around the stake, go over your rope, and then around your stake, and then that's putting that bite into the rope right there. You can see it right there. Then you come back around, go under your rope, go over it again, then you have two bites in it. You already have an automatic loop in it. You just grab your rope, put a half hitch in it, and that will never come undone until you want it to come undone. And even under tension, that won't be hard to untie. So you'll never have something binding that you can't untie. That's a Munton Muller. Learn that knot. It's a great knot.